Good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And you are listening to us on Noonan Zone, home of Southern Sports, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. And I'm your host, Richard Holdridge. It's Thursday night. We have got a jam-packed show. This is an exciting time to be a sports fan in the Chattahoochee Valley because we have just about everything going on, including high school football, softball playoffs, River Dragons hockey, Columbus State soccer, everything local to the Chattahoochee Valley. We have it, not to mention college football and the Thursday night NFL game going on as well. I'm going to preview it all, but first things first, going to talk about some things that are happening in and around the Chattahoochee Valley. So tomorrow, Georgia Alabama Sports Live is going to be live at Chambers Academy for the Glenwood Chambers Academy game. This is the high school football showcase. As the regular season is about to come to an end, we are going to have playoffs in a couple of weeks. Some of the other things that are going on in the Chattahoochee Valley, we have got the state tournaments down at the South Common Softball Complex, all classifications, including some of the best teams in the nation. We're talking Buford, Mill Creek. They're playing in 7A, and then we have two rivals going at it in the Final Four as Harris County and Northside are playing for the right to go to the championship game, which will be on Saturday. So much to get into. Let's go ahead and break down those two high school softball playoff games. As Harris County, they defeat Ola by a score of 8-3. And you had Northside defeating Northgate 8-0. So the stage is set 5 o'clock at Field 3 in the South Common Softball Complex. You have Harris County and Northside. Tickets are $15 if you want to catch it on GoFan.com, or you might be able to get it on the NFHS network. Unfortunately, I will not be at the game. I will be up in Lafayette getting ready for the Glenwood Chambers Academy game, which is our high school football showcase. So if you want to check that out, I think it's going to be a lot of fun as Northside trying to win back-to-back state championships. Harris County, well, they finished third last year. They're trying to give Northside a run for their money. It is a double elimination tournament, as we'll get into the brackets, and I'll try to look at some of the other brackets later on in the week. So I'm going on vacation next week. I'm going to have condensed shows. Still going to have a show every day. It'll be just a 10-minute sports update, but you'll get some of my best interviews, best of shows all week next week, and I know that's got to be exciting. And plus all the content that I'm doing along with Thrift Behringer on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We are really starting to grow our brand, and it's been a lot of fun. This is something I've always wanted to do. I love broadcasting, and I just can't wait what the future has in store for me. Hey, the Columbus River Dragons were in action tonight down in Baton Rouge against the Zydeco. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I was actually listening to the broadcast on the River Dragons YouTube channel. Tom Callahan back at it for his second season as a River Dragons play-by-play announcer, and he sounds amazing. The River Dragons outshot the Zydeco 18-1 in that first period. They jumped out to the 3-0 lead. Right now in the third period, they are up 4-2. Alex Storjahan got the first goal of the season. Hopefully the River Dragons can come out with a win, but I'm calling this game really late. I'm doing this broadcast really late in the evening, so I won't be able to get a score update. Some of the score updates that I want to get into: the Thursday night football game. I mean, it's 11 o'clock at night, and some of these, I can't believe they haven't even gone final. The Buffalo Bills are leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 24-10 with 8:47 left to go in the fourth quarter. Hey, college football, we have the battle of the two Georgia FCS schools. You got State and Southern, and Georgia Southern, with 4:45 left to go in the fourth quarter, leads Georgia State 44-27. Virginia Tech defeated Syracuse earlier today, 38-10. And high school football. Later this evening, we had Harris County defeat Drew 32-0. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put my trusty little thing there. There you go. Monroe defeated Columbus 58-0. Harris County defeated Drew 32-0. Spencer, they go to 7-2 as they defeated Central 43-0. And now the stage is set next week as the Spencer Green Wave have a chance to win back-to-back region titles as they will face Ace Charter on the road. Some of the action for Friday, high school football, week 11 at Kinnett Stadium. The Westover Patriots 4-5 on the season, taking on the Shaw Raiders, who are also 4-5. Shaw just came off of a 30-0 win over Hardaway last week, and they are for sure going to get into the playoffs. This is going to be a very important game as far as seedings. If they beat Westover, they'll get the number 3 seed, and their playoff path might not be as tough. Strong Rock Christian, one of the top teams in the GIAA. In fact, they're in second place behind Pacelli. They are going to be at Max Strong Stadium taking on the Brookstone Cougars. If Brookstone wants to get the number 2 seed in their region behind Pacelli, they've got to get this win. Brookstone, they've had a tough season. They've had several losses, but they can still run the table and control their own destiny with a win over Strong Rock Christian. The Carver Tigers, who wrapped up the region championship last week with a 28-17 win over Monroe, they are on the road down in Albany, Georgia, taking on Doherty. It's just to improve their record. They're already going to get a number 1 seed in the playoffs, but they still want to try to get the win. This is a huge region game. The Northside Patriots, they will be in Peachtree City. They're 5-4 on the season. McIntosh, 6-2. If Northside beats McIntosh, Harris County will win the region. So Harris County, you got to sit back. You played Thursday night. You got to sit back and root for your longtime bitter rival. So that is going to be uncomfortable for Harris County, but they're going to have to do it. St. Anne Pacelli at Heritage. That is a forfeit win for Pacelli. Pacelli is 8-1. Dothan at Opelika. I interviewed Van Riggs and I interviewed Philip Jordan earlier in the week. This is a huge game because it's a win-and-in scenario. If Opelika beats Dothan, Opelika's going to the playoffs. Right now, Dothan's in a 3-way tie with Auburn and Enterprise, and Dothan has everything in front of them. They're hoping to get the victory here. Prattville, I don't have their record posted on here, but they are taking on Auburn, who is 6-2. Auburn, after losing last week 41-20 to Central, they're trying to bounce back, and they would like to get a number 2 seed, and they just got to continue winning because next week they go down to TC Britton Field at Panther Stadium to take on the Smith Station Panthers. Taylor County at Macon County down in Montezuma. This is going to be a great game. I can't believe Taylor County is 6-2. They're having an incredible season, and they can really make some noise in Class 1A Division 2 with a big win over Macon County and possibly even making the playoffs. Schley County, all world, one of the top teams to win the state championship for Class 1A Division 2. They are on the road in Buena Vista, not too far from Ellaville, taking on Marion County, who is 4-4. Greenville, 2-6. They are taking on Chatco, who is yet to win a game. The Chatco Panthers would like to get their first win of the season. Big region game for the Callaway Cavaliers as McNair, 4-4. They will be at Callaway Stadium taking on the Callaway Cavaliers. They are still undefeated in region play. Callaway got a big 37-22 victory last week over Eagles Landing Christian Academy. I think that Callaway just can run the table and make a deep run in the playoffs. LaGrange, 6-2. They just keep on rolling. They will take on Fayette County, but get ready because next week, even though the top 4 teams in the region are in the playoffs, LaGrange has to play Troup County. That is going to be a massive game next week. Stars Mill, they are 5-3, but they are 4-1 in the region. They are taking on North Clayton. I think they should have no problem against North Clayton. Same with Whitewater. Even though Whitewater is not going to the playoffs, they can have a winning season by getting the victory over Riverdale, and then they could spoil the party by beating Stars Mill next week. So how about that? East Coweta, they've had 2 losses, but they were 2 losses to very talented teams like Carrollton. They are on the road taking on Westlake out of Atlanta. Both teams 6-2. You got Noonan taking on Douglas County. Sandy Creek is taking on Douglas. Like I mentioned, the game that Thrift Behringer and I will be at is Glenwood at Chambers Academy. This is also the high school game of the week for WTVM and WRBL. So we're going to have a lot of eyes on this game. Even though it's a non-region game for Glenwood, it's still going to be a battle between these 2 teams. Troup County, they have been rolling. Teo Todd has been out with an injury for the rest of the season, but Logan Sinkfield comes in. He doesn't skip a beat. This is going to be a huge game down in Sharpsburg. That imitating Purple Lights, the Trinity Christian Lions, the team 2 years ago that won the GHSA Division I private championship. Now they're playing in 4A. And they are one of the top teams in their region. Taking on a Troup County team still has a lot to play for. And they have a very talented team. And they could end up getting the number 1 seed even though Stars Mill beat him. So Stars Mill would own the tiebreaker. Troup County can get the number 1 seed if Stars Mill loses to Whitewater next week. Kendrick, 2-6. They play Jordan next week. They're taking on Rutland. It would be great. Kendrick can just win out, go to 4-6. That would be just amazing if they can do that. Russell County, 1-7. As they are taking on Central of Clay County. I talked about Jordan, 0-8. They are taking on Northeast, who lost to Spencer 35-34 last week in overtime after jumping out to a 28-7 lead. I did forget to mention that. So Lee Scott, 8-1. They are taking on Edgewood Academy. That's 4-5. And let me go ahead and get rid of the banner here because we do have one game Saturday. Smith Station, who did pick up their first victory of the season last week, beating Jag, they are going to travel to the Cramden Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama to take on Percy Julian. So Smith Station, who plays Auburn next week, that'd be just a good win if they can get the win against Percy Julian and finish the season strong with first-year head coach Bryant Garrison. They do have a pretty good team. It's just they're playing in a tough region. So you got to factor that. All right, that is it. That is my high school football list. Let me go ahead and bring back that banner. There you go. I hope that you're enjoying the show because I know I am. I love doing this show, especially when I'm talking about high school football. We're going to have this show on WQEE tomorrow. Try to get that River Dragons update for you before I close the show, by the way, because they are in the 3rd period. I'm actually got it on YouTube right now as we speak, trying to get an update. And, I'm doing this show 11 o'clock at night. The Columbus River Dragons lead the Baton Rouge Zydeco by a score of 5-2 with 11:38 left to go in the 3rd period. The River Dragons are out shooting the Zydeco. Get this, 45-9. Look, the Zydeco goalkeeper is really having his work cut out tonight. And the River Dragons, they're going to play the Zydeco a couple more times, 6 more times before they head home November the 17th, as they will take on the Mississippi Sea Wolves for the home opener. I can't believe that River Dragons hockey is back here in the Fountain City, and it is going to be exciting. Hoping to get to some games this year. So next weekend, November the 4th, we have the only college football game in Columbus. This is a big deal. It's the Fountain City Classic at A.J. McClung Memorial Stadium. Albany State taking on Fort Valley State. I want to try to go. This really means a lot for the city. And hearing that DJ Jones is going to be the public address announcer, that is awesome. When I think of covering sports in Columbus, nobody does it better than DJ Jones, and he's been doing it for a very long time. Looking forward to that. But hey, November the 5th on the campus of St. Anne Pacelli, we have got high school basketball media days, as we are going to have all the high schools in the Tri-City area, that the coaches and the players, as Georgia Alabama Sports Live is hosting it. I am excited that I get to be a part of it, along with the other media outlets, WTVM and WRBL. It should be a lot of fun, and I'll try to ask some of the tough questions as well. Don't forget, December the 7th, Sports Visions Football Awards Luncheon presented by Aflac will be 11:30 in the morning at the St. Luke's Ministry Center. It is the Football Awards Luncheon, the 16th annual, I believe, as we are going to honor all the high school players, the middle school players in football. The keynote speaker is the Auburn head football coach, Hugh Freeze. Boy, that is going to be just an incredible atmosphere, and I cannot wait for that. Still looking at this Columbus River Dragons game as we speak, as hopefully they can get the win. I mean, 5-2 with about 8 minutes left to go in the third period. They're going to be probably lined up for the win. And with 2:44 left to go in the fourth quarter, the Buffalo Bills lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 24-16. Baker Mayfield just threw a touchdown pass to Mike Evans to cut it to 8. I can't believe that college basketball is around the corner. In fact, in 2 weeks, we're going to have the debut of all the teams in college basketball. Hey, NBA update. The Milwaukee Bucks defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 118-117, as Damian Lillard had 39 points. Tyrese Maxey chipped in with 31 for the Sixers. And right now, 5:16 left to go in the second half. The Los Angeles Lakers leading the Phoenix Suns 39-35. The Suns got a big win opening night against the Golden State Warriors. What has stood out to you this early NBA season? Well, I do have some thoughts on the debut of Victor Wembanyama. So he debuted last night as the Mavericks did beat the Spurs 126-119. And he got into foul trouble. You could tell the talent is there. He is 7'4". I've never seen a player shoot like that who was 7'4". And he can do it all. He can block shots. He's got some handles. He can shoot the mid-range jumper. But he's got to worry. He's got to worry about his technique, especially as a rookie. Getting into foul trouble is really going to be something that he's going to have to work on. He only played 23 minutes, but he did have 15 points. He did have 5 rebounds. But yeah, he's got to watch out on the fouls. So yesterday, I talked about the Hawks losing, the Celtics winning. You had some pretty exciting games, including the Oklahoma City Thunder defeating the Chicago Bulls 124-104, as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points. But it was Chet Holmgren, who technically is a rookie this year, so he could win Rookie of the Year. He had 11 points. It was just great to see him back in an Oklahoma City Thunder uniform. And I was also happy to see that Zion Williamson played as well. Boy, this is going to be a fun NBA. I think that the NBA season is completely wide open. We have a lot of talent. There's not really bad teams out there. Even the Washington Wizards has a guy like Jordan Poole who could put up 29, and that he could end up being an all-star because that's just the type of player he is. He's a flashy player. The NBA is wide open. I think a sleeper team could be somebody like the Detroit Pistons because they do have a lot of young talent. I was very impressed with the Sacramento Kings last night. I do think that the Sixers are in trouble because, this whole James Harden experiment is I just don't know. And, I'm looking at the box score. James Harden did not play, but Kelly Oubre did chip 27 points off the bench. So it was a good game. The Bucks ended up getting the win, the 1-point win, and the Bucks are my favorites to come out of the East. All right, we do have a lot of college football to talk about here on the show. Let's get a quick update in that Georgia State, Georgia Southern game. Georgia Southern defeats Georgia State 44-27 in front of a packed house at Paulson Stadium. Georgia Southern is now 6-2, and Georgia State falls to 6-2. So both teams are bowl eligible. That's a good thing that we're going to have at least 3 teams in the state of Georgia going to bowl games. I wish I could say the same thing about Georgia Tech, but I just don't see a scenario where Georgia Tech goes to a bowl game. Georgia Tech's got a tough game against North Carolina. Let's look at some of the teams across college football. Let's start with the 12 o'clock games. These are some of the games I'm intrigued by that I really want to watch. Oklahoma and Kansas. Oklahoma, they sometimes will get off to a slow start. Can Kansas get that up-tempo offense and try to take an early lead? But Oklahoma will find a way to pull away in that game. Florida State and Wake Forest, I don't see a scenario where Florida State loses, even though they're on the road. I think that Penn State is going to dominate Indiana. Penn State might end up finishing the year with 2 losses to Michigan and Ohio State. I'm intrigued by that BYU-Texas game. I think that, Malik Murphy is going to be the starting quarterback. I thought it was going to be Arch Manning, but it's going to be Malik Murphy. Oregon taking on Utah. Still no word about Cam Rising. Is Cam Rising going to play? Otherwise, I think Oregon ends up winning this game. Georgia, Florida, it's always a tradition. I'll be glued to the TV. Even last year's game, remember Florida went on that run and they cut it to a 1-score game, but Georgia was able to pull away. I'm hoping that Georgia can do that this time, but they've got to run the football with Dejon Edwards. Remember when Kentucky gashed the Florida Gators for 250 yards? Well, that's what Georgia's got to do. They've got to rely on the weapons that they have, like Lad McConkey, Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovelet. They do have some weapons. I know that Brock Bowers, they're going to miss him, but they have got to show why they have all this talent from recruiting just high-skilled players, and they're going to have to find a way to punch Florida in the mouth. Now, it's a neutral site. You got 50% Georgia fans, 50% Florida fans. I like how you go to Jacksonville and it's just right down the middle, Georgia and Florida fans. This has really been a great rivalry, and I always enjoy this. My memorable moments, of course, how could you forget 2007 when Noshawn Moreno scores the first touchdown and the entire bench comes out of the field and storm in the end zone, and Georgia ends up getting a penalty. But then on the flip side, Florida was out for revenge, and they just punched him in the mouth in 2008. There's been a lot of close games. There's been some disappointments on both sides, but it should be a lot of fun. USC and Cal, well, I think that USC is done for, especially they're not going to go to the college football playoff, losing again. But I think that they're going to beat Cal. Here's a sneaky game. If there's any team that could be on upset alert, Ohio State has to go to Madison, Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. It's a 7:30 kickoff on NBC. Ohio State and Wisconsin. Tennessee taking on Kentucky. I think Kentucky wins. Even though Tennessee is slightly favored, I still think that Kentucky has a shot at winning that game. Let's look at some of the other. Let's go into the Sun Belt. We got some local teams in the Sun Belt. Troy, 5-2, taking on Texas State. That's also 5-2. James Madison is the lone undefeated and ranked team in the Sun Belt, taking on Old Dominion. And Arkansas State taking on Louisiana Monroe. Over in the SEC, Alabama's on a bye. LSU's on a bye. Just received the word that next week that game is going to be the CBS game at 8:30, which means the Georgia-Missouri game is going to be the CBS game at 3:30. You got Mississippi State taking on Auburn. Auburn is favored by 6.5. Auburn needs to win this game because I think if Auburn wins this game, they're going to turn around and beat Vanderbilt next week. Then they go to Fayetteville to take on Arkansas. And then they host New Mexico State on the 18th of November, which means they would be 7-4 going into the Iron Bowl with a chance to play spoiler to Alabama. How cool would that be? And just about every game that's been played at Auburn has been either close or it's gotten crazy. Over in the ACC, like I mentioned, Georgia Tech taking on North Carolina. Virginia taking on Miami. Did Miami turn the corner getting the win over Clemson last week? Because you look at their record, they should be 6-1 because Mario Cristobal didn't take a knee. Duke taking on Louisville. I mean, that's usually a great matchup in basketball, but, both teams are ranked. You got Pitt taking on Notre Dame, Clemson taking on NC State. One of these teams is going to have 4 losses, and I'm not sure if it's going to be NC State. UConn taking on Boston College, Florida taking on Wake Forest. That is the ACC. Now let's go to the National Football League, and I'm going to go ahead and close out this show. The New England Patriots taking on the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are favored by 9.5. I think the Dolphins, they're 5 wins. They played and won against a lot of bad teams. When they played the really good teams like Buffalo and Philly, they ended up losing. But what does the Patriots do best? Bill Belichick, I think he's figured out how to utilize Mac Jones. I think that the Patriots can keep it close, but I still am a believer in Tua and that Dolphins high-powered offense. I think the Dolphins win this game. The New York Giants and the New York Jets. Daniel Jones is going to be coming back, but I think that the New York Jets end up winning this game. I mean, it's a de facto home game for both teams. Jaguars and Steelers, this is going to be a good game. I think Jacksonville is too good here. I think they get the win. The Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans. Falcons are a road 2.5-point favorite. Will Levis is going to get the start for the Tennessee Titans. The Atlanta Falcons are going to ride and die with Desmond Ridder. How many more mistakes can the Falcons make? But the Titans are just trading away all their players to the Eagles. So I think the Falcons end up winning this game. This is a great matchup. The matchup between the 2 top quarterbacks in last year's draft. You got Bryce Young for Carolina. You got C.J. Stroud for Houston. This is a mismatch. I think the Houston ends up winning and winning big. The Rams taking on the Cowboys. The Cowboys fresh off a bye. Hopefully the Cowboys can ride the ship and get the win. They play very well at home. But I can't wait to see Aaron Donald try to push around that Cowboys offensive line and try to get to Dak Prescott. That's the matchup I really want to see. And then those corners for Dallas going up against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. This is going to be a great game. The Vikings taking on the Packers. Now, don't get it twisted. I think the Vikings are really good. And I'm not just saying that because they beat my 49ers. I think they beat the Packers here because the Vikings do have a lot of talent. Their record does not reflect the type of team that the Vikings are. The Saints and Colts, I mean, these are just two teams that are really bad. I do think the Saints have a very good defense. They might get the win here. This is a trap game. The Eagles are taking on the Commanders in Washington, and the Eagles are favored by 7. I think the Commanders get the upset. They beat the Eagles last year. Jalen Hurts is banged up. We don't know the status about Lane Johnson. I think the Eagles end up losing this game. The Cleveland Browns, they will start PJ Walker, but you have to go up to Seattle and play in front of the 12th man. Very tough place to play. Seattle is trying to go toe-to-toe with the 49ers because they got that showdown against San Francisco on Thanksgiving. They could have 2 identical records by the time they face each other. I think the Seahawks get the win here. The Baltimore Ravens taking on the Arizona Cardinals. They are a 9.5-point favorite. This is an absolute mismatch. I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. Lamar Jackson could win an MVP. I mean, he's got weapons like Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, and of course, you can't forget about Mark Andrews, a very underrated tight end. Yes, J.K. Dobbins out with an injury. That was absolutely brutal, but Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson just running the ball, and they have a very underrated defense. When they got Roquan Smith last year, it was a ball game. Lights out. It's over. The Ravens have one of the top defenses in all of football. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Denver Broncos. And how many people out there want to bet that this is going to be the CBS primetime game with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo? And yes, there will be. I'm wondering if Taylor Swift is going to sit next to Ciara, because you got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Denver Broncos. You got Russell Wilson. You got Patrick Mahomes. This was supposed to be the big primetime game, but the Denver Broncos have been disappointing. And yeah, I guarantee you're going to see a Taylor Swift Ciara sighting somewhere, although that would be kind of weird. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Bengals have won 2 straight. The 49ers have lost 2 straight. We don't know the status of Brock Purdy. He is still in concussion protocol. If he can't go, Sam Darnold will get the start for the 49ers, who still don't have Deebo Samuel. We don't know if Trent Williams is going to play. Yes, they're playing at home, but this could be a game that the quarterback for the 49ers, if it's Brock Purdy or if it's Sam Darnold, could get in a shootout. And I don't really want to see that. And then the Sunday night football game. This is why we really need to have flex scheduling this early in the season. The Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Chargers. Somebody flex that game out, please. It's not going to happen. Monday night football game, the Raiders and the Lions. I tell you what, when I'm going online and I'm trying to, get my football stats and baseball stats and everything I have, I just get so addicted to that immaculate grid. And I will spend like 10 minutes trying to figure out who played for the Chiefs and who played for the Raiders and something like that. Obviously Marcus Allen, but just coming up with something like that. But it's a lot of fun. I'm going to have a fun weekend. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I'm going to go ahead and close out this show with my intro music. So you're going to get to, because I'm trying to see if I can actually do this for the intro and the outro. So hope everybody has a great rest of your night and hope you enjoy all the high school football games. Wait a second. One more thing before I go. One more thing. A big shout out to Jack Patterson from WRBL. He sent me this just now. Southwest ends up winning Spencer won over Central Macon tonight. It gives the Spencer Green Wave the Region 2 2A title. So Southwest of Macon defeated Ace Charter 52-51. Thank you to Jack Patterson for sharing that with me. That really does mean a lot. And so I did say in the beginning of the broadcast that the Spencer Greenway would have to beat Ace Charter next week to win the region title. Well, the region title belongs to Spencer. Back-to-back champions. And we do have a final down in Baton Rouge as the Columbus River Dragons defeat the Baton Rouge Zydeco by a score of, I want to say 6-2. I have it on the YouTube, and it just went final 6-2. Congratulations to the Columbus River Dragons. I'm excited about this season. I'm excited to hear Tom Callahan, and I'm also excited. I requested press credentials. I'm excited to maybe do some live shows from the Columbus Civic Center, talk some Columbus River Dragons, some pregame, postgame, interview some of the players. I definitely want to try to get some River Dragons here on the show. I've had Jay Krupp on the show. I'd love to get him on. But I hope everybody has a great rest of your night. I'm going to go ahead and play my intro music. This will be my outro music. So bear with me. I'll try to get some outro music for my show. But don't forget to like and subscribe to the Facebook channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that's where all the content for the Sports Beat is going to be there, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We also have the Facebook page and YouTube channel for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Enjoy the games tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.